interviewing. You know, that's what they doing. Stick around. It's about to get all roomy up in here. Remote Ruby starts now.
Wait, no, it's Friday.
Yeah.
It's a weird day for us. I feel like I just talked to you, Andrew.
I feel like I just talked to you too. It's weird.
Yeah, and then I feel like we just hung out in person.
Yeah.
Like a week ago.
Yeah. Dude, time flies, right?
It does. Dude, let's just dive in this week. We have special guest Travis Dockter here. And Travis is working on a new conference, brand new conference. And we wanted to have him on to talk about it. And the process of planning a conference and all those details. Travis, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about it.
Do you want to give a backstory on yourself? What got you here into Rails and Ruby, and then the crazy idea of I'll start a conference?
Yeah, sure. I feel like this story's relatively common, but I did not go to school for computer science. I went to business school because that's what you do when you don't know what you want to do. And then somehow kind of like floundered around and then ended up in a boot camp a couple of years later. And at the right time, I think, as the boot camp peak was coming down, but it was still...
When was that? 2013 era, somewhere around there?
No, it was...
Boot camps were popping like when I was in college still.
Yeah. I was 2018, I think.
Okay.
That's when it was like coming down a little bit. We were kind of on the tail end. But yeah, I went to Flatiron School in New York. Avi Flombaum started that school, if you've seen his stuff. But yeah, so for my first 3 years of my career then, I didn't really go to conferences. I didn't really know that you could do that. I feel like a lot of people are introduced to conferences when there's a company culture where people go to conferences and like the company pays for people to go. And that didn't happen for me until the job that I have right now. I joined actually in 2021. So is that still in kind of COVID, but they had a tradition pre-COVID of going to RailsConf every year. And they would like tell stories of like going to conferences and stuff. And I was like, oh man, I want to do that. So then in 2022, I went to RailsConf and got hooked on conferences. And then the beginning of this year, I had kind of been going to RailsConf and Sin City Ruby every year. Those were kind of my go-to conferences. And the beginning of this year, both of them announced, this is our last year. And I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do next year? And there wasn't a whole lot. We didn't know about SF Ruby at that time. We hadn't heard, where Rails World 2026 was going to be. And I think like Rocky Mountain Ruby was the only like stable Western US conference, I feel like at that time. And I was like, well, maybe there's room for another one and I can just kind of make it what I want it to be. And I kind of started exploring that. And then, as you kind of start to imagine things, you get more attached to your like vision of this thing. And I was like, well, I have so many ideas now, I can't not do it. So I might as well just do it. So yeah, that's where it ended up. And now it's happening next summer in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is a part of the US. No judgment if you didn't know that. I just know that sometimes, East Coast, I couldn't point to the two Virginias on a map, so I'm not judging. But yeah, come out to New Mexico. And the cool thing about the conference is it's in the Albuquerque Museum. So you'll get to learn a little bit of history too. I know there's probably some history buffs in the Rails community. So yeah, it'll be a good time.
For our global listeners, New Mexico is right beside Arizona, which everyone knows where that is. So,
which is next to California.
Yeah.
Everybody else knows where that is.
Yeah. So you can just move 1, 2 over. There you go.
You know the general area now.
I'm excited. Like I've been begging for like and I'm not going to do it. Like, I know myself, like, I'm not going to do that. But I've been really wanting like a conference like in the Southwest, because it's like I feel like I have to fly like across the country every single time, and it gets a little old after a while.
Yeah. You're in Phoenix, right?
Yes.
Well, like a 45-minute plane ride, or you could drive if you wanted to.
And when I drove from the East Coast to Phoenix, I went through parts of New Mexico. It's a beautiful state.
Oh, yeah. It's really awesome. Albuquerque's cool because we have mountains on one side, high elevation mountains, pine trees, all of that on one side. And then the other side is like flat, wide open desert. So we have like all kinds of hiking and outdoor kind of stuff. That's really cool. So yeah, I'm excited for people to come get to know this place that maybe haven't been here before. It's not like a destination type place like some other conferences, but I think it's a cool place.
That for me was actually one of the selling points of Albuquerque, because it's like, I probably am not going to just go on vacation to Albuquerque, but it's a great excuse to go see a city that I've never been to before or whatever. So, you think about the other conferences and they're all kind of, if they're large enough, then they're all thinking about what's a big city to go to. Is it Vegas or Atlanta or Portland or whatever? And so they all kind of end up going in the same circle of cities, but eventually I'd love to have an excuse for people to come out to St. Louis and hang out here, for a day or two. And I think it's pretty awesome to have those unique locations, just because that makes it a little bit different, which is always welcome. You reminded me, I was like, I think from watching and reading about early Microsoft days, Microsoft was actually started or founded in Albuquerque, I think. So,
yes. Yeah. So, weird aside here, I used to do tap dance, and we had
I hope this is part of the conference then.
I will not be tap dancing at the conference.
Oh, man.
Disappoint you guys. But we had a concert one time, not a concert, like a recital, basically like where your family comes and you show them what you're learning and whatnot. But it was in the building next to the original Microsoft offices when it was like just Bill Gates and whoever the other guy was. I don't even know, but it has like a little
Paul
plaque.
Allen.
It has a little plaque outside that was like, this is the original offices. Yeah. Sometimes we don't like to tell people that, because then not everybody loves Microsoft.
Yeah, they've done their certain things.
They've definitely done stuff that we can be sure of.
But yeah, I still think that's pretty cool. Like, the history of it all is interesting. What's that movie? It's on the tip of my tongue. No, it's the one about Bill Gates and stuff. Pirates of Silicon Valley. If anybody hasn't watched that, it's worth watching, because it kind of goes through Steve Jobs and Bill Gates' early days and stuff. It's a really good movie. So, highly recommend it. Honeybadger helps you deploy with confidence and be your team's DevOps hero by combining error, uptime, and performance monitoring in one simple platform. It's free to get started, and setup just takes a few minutes. Be the hero your team needs. Suit up at honeybadger.io. That's www.honeybadger.io. So you start getting the itch. You start scratching the itch that I want to go start a conference. Where do you go from there? So, like, do you start thinking about venues and then size of how many people and whatever, or are you thinking about it in a different way? Because that's probably my natural instinct would be like, how many people am I aiming for? Can I convince 100 people to come to St. Louis or whatever?
Right.
Where's somewhere interesting that I would host them or whatever? It's probably the first thoughts.
You probably have to reserve outright and like pay a deposit, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be what I'm thinking of first. Is like, all right, which one of these am I not going to have to like sign my mortgage over to if I had a mortgage, which I can't because I'm a millennial.
Yeah. So the order for me was definitely venue first, because I wanted it to be a conference that you didn't have to have a car at, because New Mexico, like a lot of Western states, is very spread out. And I don't want everybody that comes to this conference to have to rent a car. And I had an area in mind that had like a couple hotels and a lot of restaurants. And I thought if I could get at one of those hotels, that would be perfect because people could just go straight from the airport there and then not have to have a car. They could walk everywhere. And so I kind of already had an idea of like, okay, it's either this area or not at all. And I ended up getting really lucky that the museum is right there. And they gave us really incredible rates for the 2 days of the conference because the hotel that I originally went to was much more expensive and much harder to work with. They're like owned by a corporation. So their offices weren't even here in Albuquerque. So I was trying to get a hold of somebody in another state who wasn't that interested in what I was doing. But the museum ended up being a place that actually somebody, a good friend of mine, had done an event there. And he's like, oh, you should talk to them. And I was like, anybody can do that? I thought you did it there because it was for a nonprofit or something. He's like, no, you can just do something there. And I was like, okay, cool. So yeah, venue was definitely first. And then that did set the number because they were like no more than 150 people. But for me, I talked to a lot of people that had organized conferences, and 150 is probably gracious for a first year, especially coming from somebody who hasn't done anything big in the Rails community before. So getting 150 people to come out, that would be incredible if I did, but probably I'm shooting for more around 100 people. So small venue is perfect in my case. So I got lucky in a lot of ways, I think. But yeah, that's how it ended up for me. And then after venue, I was like, okay, now I need to find sponsors and speakers to make sure that people actually want to come to this and that I don't go broke doing this. And I'm kind of on the tail end of that right now. We have a couple sponsors, Avo, Cisco Meraki, and TypeSense. And I didn't want to get like a ton of sponsors because I want to make this experience as good as possible for everybody involved. So if I had too many sponsors, I feel like I wouldn't be able to give them all the individual attention that I wanted to. Plus, it's New Mexico. It isn't as expensive to put on an event here as it is in, say, Las Vegas or Philadelphia. So I feel like I have a small advantage there that I don't need as many sponsors. And I was lucky to get them relatively early. And now that's a little bit of financial pressure off. So now it's the CFP is now open. So people can submit CFP. If they go to blastoffrails.com on the speakers page, you can find a link to the CFP. And now we're just trying to find cool speakers. We do have one keynote, which is from Kieran Klassen. He is a Rails developer who's working on Cora at a company called Every. He's doing a lot of like AI stuff, and their products are just really interesting and really cool. So I'm super excited for him to speak, but the rest is wide open. So hoping to get some good proposals in there.
Nice. Yeah, I've known Kieran for quite a while now. I can't remember how many years. He's got family in the area or whatever, but I think their app is on Jumpstart, which is fun.
Oh,
which is cool. So that'll be a good talk because he's definitely been very vocal and using and showing people how he uses AI to write code for him and all that. So I'm sure that'll be a pretty interesting talk. How many speakers are you having, and how did you like figure out the ideal schedule, if it's figured out yet?
Yeah. I don't know exactly how many because I haven't figured out the schedule yet. It's a 2-day conference. I want to kind of leave some space, so I'm not going to pack talks in there. I feel like that's not as common now. I think it's more common now to leave some space around the talks. Back in the day, they would like just do back-to-back talks.
You reminded me, yeah, that is how I remember like the early conferences I went to. And I've never even thought about that, like the shift towards having whatever 15, 20, 30-minute breaks in between talks.
It's because conferences were originally much more academic, and it was like this conferences were a place to present new ideas or new technology or something that you wanted to get out there and like get feedback on and stuff. And now they're still that, but there's more of a community aspect around it, especially with everybody working remote now. It's really nice to just get in an environment with people and you want to spend some time talking to those people in your industry. And the talks are nice, but the hallway track is also super important. So I'm thinking maybe like 8 to 10 talks. So 4 or 5 talks per day. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that makes sense. The early talks and stuff at conferences were very academic. Like that was really where things were being shown of like, what is it, SIGGRAPH and some of those like graphics conferences and things like that, like very academic, mathematical things or whatever. But now it's awesome meetups or whatever. But like it's sort of a balance of both where there's a lot of keynotes still tend to kind of be in that direction of like academic explaining like how stuff works or whatever. But now you have opportunity to chat with people about what they're working on and all that. So it's like a whole different kind of vibe to it at the end of the day. And I like that a lot. Having only a handful of talks throughout the day is not overwhelming because sometimes that can be like, well, I got to run, go to the next talk or whatever. Gives you a little bit more chill and more opportunity to have more of those conversations with people. So I like that.
I want to lean into that too of like Rails world is not all of it, obviously, but like a big part of it is the main talks are introducing these like new features and new technology. That's their thing. And I want to do kind of the adjacent part of that, which is like, I want talks about people applying those things that were announced, the more like technical talks at Rails World. Come tell us stories about how you implemented the latest Hotwire features or the latest solid queue or whatever, and come weave a story around those technical talks. You could just like still teach us something. I still want to see code, but if we could make it more about that stories and inspiration type of stuff rather than let Rails World do the technical introducing of ideas and technology. You know what I mean?
Hi, I'm Adam from JudoScale, and like most of you, I'm never going to be as smart, funny, and good-looking as Andrew and Chris. But hey, at least they let me sponsor their podcast. I'll make it quick. JudoScale is an autoscaler for Heroku, Render, Fly, and AWS. We're a better autoscaler because we track more effective metrics, analyze them more frequently, and give you the controls you need to dial in predictable and reliable scaling. Traffic spikes, request timeouts, backed up job queues, JudoScale has you covered. Head to judoscale.com/remote-ruby to learn more.
I feel like that used to be more of a thing and it's kind of been lost over the past several years because that was something that I had been saying recently when we, like last year and this year during the conference season, I was like, I used to go to like these conferences, sit and talk and be like, oh my God, this talk is giving me so many ideas. Like I just learned about this thing. And like now that I see someone else use it, I have like ideas about I could use it. And I would sit outside after the talk and literally start trying to like add in stimulus or, you know, whatever was hot at the time. So yeah, those are the talks I feel like you're missing.
I had that moment where Marco's on stage talking about Reaction View and Herb at Rails World. And then immediately afterwards, you know, Andy Kroll pulls out his laptop to start adding it to his app. And then I'm like, I need this in Go Rails too. Like that is super fun. It's a really good point that like, yeah, Rails World will always be the conference where the new stuff is announced, but you aren't going to get a lot of the follow-up at that conference necessarily from the community of like, how did this work in production? effectively next year, you'll get some incremental improvements on a lot of those things, like the new Hotwire native 1.3 and so on. But like they're going to reserve that for the new stuff. So this is, I think, really interesting to talk about, because if you're putting on your own conference, you know you cannot replicate and duplicate Rails World. So you have to create your own niche that way. And I think this is something that will make the conference really successful because of that, where it's like you're deliberately trying to do something different and having that philosophy of like, this is what I want to see here. And you know that it will get people excited to come and discuss those things. Like, okay, what about Hotwire in the real world is still a struggle or whatever, like the stories of that, or people using inertia, or like Kieran doing AI code generation and all that stuff. Like people are super interested in that, but there's generally not that discussion at Rails World or whatever. So you're giving a home for all that, which I think is awesome and needed. So that I thought was really interesting. Do you have other sort of guiding principles or philosophies that you're putting into the conference?
I think really because it's just me organizing this, and I selfishly, kind of the origin of this conference is I just wanted another conference to go to. The reason that I go to conferences is because of the energy that I get from it and the inspiration that I get from it. And I want my conference to be that times 10. I want to, after this conference is over, to have 10 different side projects that I want to start, 10 different features that I want to implement, 10 different things that I want to do because of the talks, because of the people that I talk to in the hallway track. That's really what I'm going for. I want this conference to be for people that are building things and want to be around other people that are building things because that gives them energy. I'm typically an introvert. I get tired at parties, but at conferences, I leave with a lot of energy, actually, just because seeing other people, their stories of what they're doing is inspiring to me. And yeah, that's really what I'm going for. I don't know exactly what that looks like. And the first year, it's just going to be kind of testing all of these ideas. But I have a feeling that that will become more clear and a niche will be carved out for this conference as we do it more times. But that's kind of what's in my head right now.
That makes a lot of sense. I will just say, knowing Amanda at the Rails Foundation, you're probably going to have to start planning 2027, 2028 right now, right? Even before the first one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, luckily, I don't have to have it in a different continent every year. So
Right.
I have some advantage over Rails World.
We were discussing that a little bit, where that problem alone is kind of nuts because you're starting from scratch every year. Mm-hmm. Except this was like second time in Amsterdam. So the location of the hotel was actually pretty unique, where you get to take the ferry over as the easiest way to get to the conference, and all the little details of the layout of the room with all the sponsors and everything was just, that level of polish was just way better. It was subtle in the experience, but you could feel that it was just like, wow, this is really polished this go around. And you'll have that same thing in the future. Second go around, you might like the venue a lot and then realize like, oh, you just laid it out wrong or something. Mm-hmm. But you also have the ability to like, okay, this venue had these pros, these cons. We need a different venue, but you also live there and you're able to like go and see those instead of traveling across the country or across the world to like pick out venues and stuff. That's got to be extremely hard. So like you're setting up yourself for a bit of success that way, where it's like, this isn't, well, assuming everything goes well the first year, the second time, you know, all this stuff from the experience before, but along those lines, one of the things that I think has caught a lot of people's eye is your interviewing of other conference organizers and the sort of stories that you've been asking them to share with you about, like, how do I not make these mistakes, but turning those into like articles that you're sharing about that caught my attention immediately, because I was like, this is awesome. These are stories I would love to hear, but also take a lot of work to go interview everybody and talk to them and stuff. So what got you doing that in the first place?
So when I first had the idea to organize a conference myself, I've never done anything on this scale, at least before. And my first thought was, I'm just going to reach out to other people that have done this before. And turns out that's what everybody does when they go to organize a Ruby conference or a Rails conference, because everyone I talked to was like, oh yeah, when I did this my first time, I talked to this person, this person, this person. And everybody said that. So this is like a common thing. Like if someone's going to organize a conference, they reach out to all the other people that have organized conferences. And as soon as I started hearing that, I was like, oh, if you had recorded that talk, I could just watch the talk. So I should just record all of these, and then other people that are thinking of organizing conferences can watch those. If they don't have time or they don't have access to the other organizers, they can watch these and at least get something. And I think that also, maybe you're not going to watch the whole thing, but even if you're not organizing a conference, I should just do clips of stories, because it's kind of just interesting to hear the backstory of some of the conferences that you've been to and been like, oh, I didn't know that about that conference that happened that year. Or, oh, wow, I didn't know that that person was so stressed out. They looked casual. Sometimes it's just nice to like hear stories about conferences that you've been to, and even if you're not organizing one. So yeah, I mean, they're very low budget, as in zero. I don't have microphones and whatnot. I'm just recording Zoom calls with these people and not editing them, just throwing them up there. But I think that it'll be valuable to somebody who's organizing a conference next year or the year after that, if they can just watch these and maybe use it to decide whether they're going to organize a conference, or use it to help them kind of get a foundation. So
yeah, I need YouTube Shorts, please. That's how I prefer
yeah,
it.
exactly. I should do that. Maybe I'll go back later and chop them into clips.
I imagine now you have the foundation to start a conference about organizing conferences.
Right.
So you could just have them all get up on stage, and then you have a super meta conference at some point.
Yeah. We probably couldn't call it meta conference because of Facebook, but we could call it conf.
There you go.
There you go.
Done. Trademarked. Those, I think, I related to that a ton, though. Like the idea of, well, why not just have these conversations and share them? Because it's kind of how this podcast started. It's how GoRail started. It was like I wrote notes that were in my notebook or my personal like Apple Notes or whatever. But then it's like, well, why not just publish those? There's nothing secret to have in there. So it's one of those things where you sort of make your own luck just by doing some work. And it's like, well, I might as well share it.
Right.
And then in a way, this is marketing as well for the conference too, even though it may not feel like it's just research to you or whatever. Like I'm just trying to get some answers, but it gives people sort of a regular kind of cadence of like, hey, just a reminder, Blastoff Rails is coming up at some point in the next year. Keep an eye on it. And I think that probably helps to just spread the word a little bit. You have a reason to share these on social media and Reddit and whatnot that you wouldn't otherwise. Like if you weren't doing this, how in the world would you be marketing the conference? That'd be tough.
Yeah, it's hard. It's that whole build in public kind of meme that goes around. And I think that for me, this has been nice because I never really felt like I had anything worth building in public. And I also never had like contributed to open source or anything like that. Like I always wanted to do that stuff. I don't know. It just never caught on for me. I never had anything that I could do it with. And this kind of feels like the conference interviews, but also the conference itself feels like my contribution to the community. Like it's my open source contribution because I'm a good programmer, but I'm not a great programmer. And I really love this community and I want to give back. And this is my way of giving back because I'm not going to be that core team contributor or the guy that made the gem that everybody uses. It's been very gratifying in that way as well.
I remember in the early days where I was learning Linux and stuff, I was like, I'm not a good programmer, so what can I do? And I just like made some notes. Like I had this specific HP laptop that had whatever GPU and stuff, and I just made a tutorial and shared that. And it was like, I guess this is in my experience level where I'm at as a person. This is my way to give back to the community. This is something you can look at too, where it makes a lot of sense because there's so few people organizing conferences. You can count them on a couple hands or whatever. Like it's really small. You know, and there's sort of the horror stories of like you hear somebody did it and then lost 15 grand. And you're like, well, I don't want to do that. Well, if you take the time to talk to these people and figure out how do I not do that, then it maybe isn't as scary. And you're like, okay, I just really pay close attention to this and I don't
mitigate the risk.
Yeah. But then by doing literally any of these things, like, yes, to get to being a part of the Rails core team, like you have to be very, very involved. But there's so many opportunities where you can create a brand new gem, you can create a conference, you can create something new where there's this gap that can really fill things in, like a podcast, whatever it is. There's so many little things that you have to be kind of in tune with the community and realize like, yeah, there's something missing here, but it also gives you the perfect opportunity to like really become deeply part of the community that way. And conferences certainly seem to be a case that is daunting enough that most people are like, yeah, I would never consider doing that. But it's a great opportunity for you to jump in and do that, which is awesome. I like that.
Yeah. A funny side effect of it too is that before, I always wanted to do something, but I just didn't know what to do. And I would like start a side project, but I would get bored with it or whatever. It wouldn't grab me or wouldn't take off. And since I started planning the conference, I've been doing more coding than I have in several years because I have this project now that has kind of grabbed me and I want to do all this stuff for it. I used AI to like vibe code the site or whatever because I hadn't done that before. And it was something I wanted to try. So I did that and I haven't done this. I definitely don't have time to do it this year, but you guys know, you're aware of the Primogen?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he has a coffee shop that is run over SSH.
Yep.
And I just think that's like the coolest idea ever and just a fun project. But I don't have anything to sell. But oh, wait, I have a conference. I could maybe sell tickets that way or something that way. So like next year, I want to like sell tickets over SSH. So you have to like SSH in and get a TUI and like maybe you'll get like a special price or something if you buy your tickets through there instead of the browser site or something like that. But it just like gives you something to mess around with and have fun with. And I've been way more active than I ever was.
I didn't know I could have this nightmare, but now I have this nightmare of trying to link Stripe into SSH. Like, how do I direct link into SSH? Like, I'm searching the docs, it's not there.
That was my immediate thought too. It was like,
there's like a meme of you guys bashing on Stripe in your podcast a lot. But,
good.
So I had never used Stripe before until this conference project, and I didn't know about the fees. You get a fee for everything. There's like 4 or 5 fees whenever somebody sends you money. And I'm like, wait, I don't get all that.
When you're on top, you can do what you want, dude.
Oh, it was a learning experience for me.
what are people going to do? Mail you checks?
Yeah. I don't even know if I have a checkbook.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, maybe that'll be the back to the DOS days where you can put up a terminal way to check out. You can have this sort of shareware like page on the website that mail me a check and I'll send you a ticket or something. Like you could do some fun stuff like that. Kind of like, did you see Post Hog just updated their website to look like an old Windows or whatever? It's like they got all kinds of crazy designs that all the discussion on it was like their conversion rate on their software has to go down ridiculously low. But it's like you open their website and there's like a sort of text editor thing open and you can click on pricing, which is like a calculator icon, and it looks like a desktop, and you open these windows. It's ridiculous. Like they put a ton of work into this, but that's kind of the charm of it too. You know, that's why people will dig in deeper. That is, I think, also really critical for conferences too, to like, how are you going to make it special? If it's just another conference, that's fine. People will attend, but if you can make it fun and unique and special, it'll make it memorable. Like I always remember back to going to Ruby on Ales, and every time you bring up the conference Ruby on Ales, somebody's like, "Oh my gosh, that was such a good time!" And that's, I think, the goal for making your own conference is how do you make it memorable? Do you have any other ideas that you're working on for that? And if they're like surprises, you got to keep them secret, I guess.
I don't have anything right now. So I've kind of just been focused on getting like the big three of venue speakers, sponsors out of the way. I have some ideas, but nothing concrete yet. I do want it to be a unique experience, and I want to spend a lot of time crafting the experience to try to be a little different on a budget, we'll say. Because I'm not Rails World. I don't have the Rails Foundation behind me. So I do want to spend some time on that. I don't have anything yet, but that's something that I'll be starting to focus on now. I've been like reading books about organizing conferences and just trying to get ideas for how to make it special. So stay tuned.
Yeah, skydiving. let's ramp up the extremeness here. Let's do 4x4s and skydiving.
Okay. Yeah.
That's how you're dropped off at the venue.
Yeah. That's how you get in.
It's like when Google Glass was initially introduced at the Google I/O or whatever, where they came skydiving in and live streaming from the glasses.
Yeah.
There you go.
I was gonna say, what's Albuquerque kind of known for?
Besides Breaking Bad.
Yes. We know that.
If you've ever heard of Meow Wolf, we have one of those.
The art thing?
Yeah. So the author of Game of Thrones created this, basically just him and a bunch of visual artists going crazy in a warehouse and creating this wild experience. There's like a storyline and there's all these different environments and sets and stuff that you walk through. It's hard to describe. You really have to see it. But I think they're doing more. But the very first one was here in New Mexico in Santa Fe. And it's like 45 minutes away, 50 minutes away from our venue. So if you want to rent a car and go do that the weekend after the conference, you could do that. We have, lots of outdoor stuff. There's like mountain biking, and something cool is, I think, until recently, we had one of the longest trams in the world, where we have a tram that goes up the mountain that kind of looks over Albuquerque, and there's a restaurant on the very top of that mountain, so you can like eat dinner up there and kind of overlook half of New Mexico from the top. That's the thing, is Albuquerque is not a real destination, but everybody that comes here enjoys it. It's just a cool place. We're high desert, so we are over a mile high. We're like Denver elevation.
Oh, wow.
So we get all 4 seasons. The weather in June, I think, is a little bit hot, but it's pretty good because we have a really windy spring and we have a really hot summer. But right in June, you can get some really good weather. So I'm really hoping that we can get some good weather in there and people can go outside and do fun stuff while they're there. Go hiking or go up to Santa Fe. There's a lot of history and stuff like that. So
I'm in the low desert, apparently.
yes. Yes.
The high desert is a new thing to me. I'm like a little around like 1,000 feet right now.
Yeah.
In the low country.
Yeah.
Spins revolver. Is there anything that you want to go over that we didn't touch on?
I don't think so. Early bird tickets are up. They're only $175. So
that's awesome.
That's a steal.
Yeah.
For 2 days.
Yeah, I will be taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
One of the things that we sort of deliberate about doing with RailsConf this year was getting people to experience the city. Have you planned, or I'm sure you've already thought of this, about like restaurants nearby and having sort of the like, these are walkable places, go check this out. Make sure that when you're here, even if you're here for just the 2 days and you don't get extra time, go check out these restaurants or whatever. I'm sure you've got a bit of that.
Funny enough, pre-boot camp, I actually worked the front desk at one of the hotels that is the nearest hotel for this conference. And we had like recommendations. They would give us recommendations to give to people for this area. So I kind of like know a lot of the recommendations in the area because of this past pre-web development career. So yeah, the venue is right next to what's called Old Town, which is the historical city center of Albuquerque. And there's like a super old church. And then in this church, there's the Church Street Cafe, which is really awesome adobe building restaurant. That's really cool. Really great food. That's the other thing I guess that I forgot to mention about Albuquerque is the food. We have kind of a mix of Mexican and Native American food here and really good green chili. And yeah, there's a lot of good restaurants, literally 5-minute walk from the venue. And then there's also like a food hall, which is a lot of more like diverse, more modern options. It has Middle Eastern food and there's like a brewery in there. And if you're not looking for the local stuff, it has anything you could want there. And that's like a 10-minute walk away. So the location is incredible for everything that's around there. Random fact, there's a rattlesnake museum that's like a 5-minute walk. I like stuff like that. So I love that museum. They have a lot of live snakes in there. So if that's not your thing, totally fine. But yeah, there's just a ton of super interesting stuff around there and really good food.
Nice.
I don't know that my mom would like the rattlesnake museum.
I'm still reeling about that comment. Like that's because they're pests. To me, it's like last time I encountered a rattlesnake, it was not in a box. It was like near me in the wild. I'm like, I prefer to give them a wide berth.
Yeah. Yeah. It's another niche thing, but
we just get really small snakes around us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're no big deal. Occasionally I'll see them like on the road or whatever, but you guys are taking care of pests and whatever. You're good to have around here. We don't have rattlesnakes though. So thank God.
See, bro activated my fight or flight just by the word rattlesnake. I was like, where?
Just to clarify, you will not run into rattlesnakes in the wild in Albuquerque.
Ooh, good.
Just so you know, there's a museum, but not a danger in Albuquerque.
Maybe if you're hiking out there.
Maybe if you're hiking, even then, they're not super common.
They are very common here. Let me tell you.
So yeah, your CFP is open. How long does that run?
I don't really have a close date. I think I put the date as sometime in January, but I wanted to give people time to hear about it and think of their idea and put it in. I hate it when conferences are like, okay, our CFP is open for 4 weeks. And I'm like, wait, I don't know if I'm going to have time to like sit down and do something.
A lot of them are really short these days.
Yeah.
So yours is open for like 4 months.
Yeah. I had the advantage of starting on this early, and I purposely gave myself a lot of time to plan this thing so that it would be as low stress as possible, especially if stuff came up. And I was thinking about doing the whole like, oh, maybe I should do like a social media build up to like releasing the tickets in the CFP. But then I was like, that sounds stressful. I'm just going to open it up, leave it open for a while, and let people have some time to think of something and submit it. You have the holidays. So if you can get a couple hours alone on a holiday, I know that's tough sometimes, but maybe you can figure out a CFP proposal.
I think that's nice. It gives people time to think about what's something different I could submit or whatever. And I'm already thinking about ideas of stuff I would want to submit or whatever. So it feels less stressful where it's like CFPs are open and now they're closing, and those feel a bit rushed most of the time. And maybe that's because like, if you're submitting to Rails World, there is a whole lot of talks submitted and not many slots. Right. So it'd probably be a disaster to go through all those submissions if it was open for too long.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But you don't want to leave the Rails World one open for too long because then they will never get through all of them. But
yeah, we had a taste of that at Rails Conf where it was like, went through 250 submissions, and the like sessionized way of going through and ranking them all was like, you compare every talk against every other talk, and each person does that. And it was nonstop hours of work for every single person. So it was took a lot to go through that. But you're also a new conference, so it's like you are on the other side of the table wondering, will anyone submit? So here's your shout out to make sure you submit something. And it probably helps you figure out, how do you make it a cohesive sort of theme across the 2 days, or maybe even like one day is more of one theme and the others, whatever. You'll see a lot over that time, which is good. But yeah, I imagine just kind of reminding people, hey, the CFP is open, like submit something before the last minute would be ideal.
Yeah. And I'll add something unique about this conference, and to be determined whether it's a good idea for me or not. But I have committed to paying for the flight, hotel, and ticket for every speaker. So
that's amazing.
We're committing to do that. Usually conferences will do a stipend or some sort of limit on the travel, but if you are a speaker at this conference, your travel is covered no matter where you're coming from. So if that doesn't encourage people to do a CFP, then I don't know what will.
No, that's amazing, because that is expensive. Like the hotel and ticket and stuff is expensive enough on its own, but the flights really add up pretty fast. And that makes it really great for speakers to have the flexibility. They might be taking off work to attend. They're definitely spending, 40 plus hours to put their talk together. And it's a good way for you to give back to those people who are making the conference possible. Yeah. So I like that a lot.
I didn't want to take on too many sponsors because I want to make the experience really great for them. And the same with like every group of people, like the sponsors, the speakers, the attendees. I want to make the experience really great for all these groups. And for the speakers, that was something that I really wanted to do early on, because it can be expensive and you're already doing a lot of work. And you're also kind of the reason that people are coming to this conference. And I think that having to pay to go speak at a conference, although sometimes it's necessary because conferences are expensive, but it would be really nice if we could treat the speakers really well, because they are essentially the meat of the conference.
Yeah, that really can be what sells the tickets at the end of the day. Like having a really good lineup of speakers, and it's like being able to compensate them to make it possible. And if that was the thing where, look, I can't get away because maybe my company will take care of the few days off for traveling and stuff, but then I got to pay to fly out or whatever, then that makes it so much more open for people to be able to submit and speak. And I'm sure you're probably looking for people who are new, but people who are experienced, and like sort of a general range of speakers and stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. I would love for people who've never done a talk before to submit. I have a soft spot for that because I have never done a talk at a conference. So yeah, I would love for those people to submit and have a good mix of experience levels.
I always really like Andy Kroll with Bright and Ruby. Like for any new speaker or lightning talks or whatever, he like goes way out of his way to just practice with people and prepare them when they are a new speaker or whatever. And that goes such a long way for them building some confidence. And then, yeah, if you've never spoken in front of several hundred people or 100 people, like that's pretty daunting. And we're all kind of engineers who probably are a bit more introverted or whatever. Like I did not ever expect I'd speak at a conference. And I got lucky because the first speaking thing I had was at RailsConf during COVID. It was just submitting a video, and I was used to doing that. So I didn't even have to stand up on stage in front of people. So that was funny, but I think that's awesome. And these are like really good size conferences where if it's 100, 150 people, whatever, it's small enough that you can talk to every single person there. And when you get up on stage, it's really not a massive stage. So it's just an easier place to feel like you fit in. And it's not a small meetup where you don't really feel like you gave a talk or whatever. Yeah. If it's in front of only like 15 or 20 people, it's still like a big audience. 100 people is nothing to bat an eye about, but it is still daunting to get up there and stuff. So
yeah, I do plan on, for first time speakers, trying to get them like mentors, people like Andy Kroll or you, if you are.
I'd be happy to volunteer. Yes. Yeah,
to get people some kind of mentorship and feedback and stuff like that for their talks.
That's great. Well, hopefully you get a whole bunch of submissions. People have time, but submit something sooner than later. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. And also, usually when I submit something, a real quick piece of advice for anybody submitting is like, think about your topic, think about who the audience is, and try and make it, when you submit to the organizers, you want to be in their mindset. It's like, if I choose your talk, how do I read this and understand, will it be a good fit for the audience I'll have at the conference? What's the theme? What's all those little details of me being an organizer? So pretend you're an organizer reading your own submission and think about that. Can you make it broad enough so that, Tender Love may talk about some very technical things, but he's able to explain it in a way that works for, it may be a little bit hard for beginners to like grasp everything, but he's able to explain it where the entire spectrum of absolute beginners never used Ruby before, and this is their first talk, to someone who's super senior can listen to that talk and still take stuff away from it. And it's like, just think about it from that other end. And I think your submissions will do a lot better. Having read through so many of those at RailsConf, I was like, this makes a lot more sense now. I always just kind of was like, I have something I could talk about, I guess, but I don't know if anyone cares. And so I'd submit stuff like that. And that was about as far as I went into thinking about it. And now I'm like, wait, I should just pretend I'm on the other side of the table here reading this. And I think that helped me write better submissions that way. So hopefully that'll make it easier for you too to review them, because they can be quite a challenge. Yeah. Sometimes they're just so vague. And that's, I think, the thing I'm getting at is like, just be specific as much as possible. If you can give me, one of the clear things that we saw at RailsConf was like, if you can give me roughly, I don't need your finished talk, but if you can give me 10 bullet points or something like that of this is what I'm going to cover sort of in this order, then you give the reviewers much more confidence like this is going to fit the conference. Sometimes they're so vague. A lot of people used AI to write theirs and it became extremely vague. And it was like, well, this sounds just like somebody else's, but I don't know what the hell you're going to talk about for 30 minutes or 45 minutes on stage. So we can't be confident that we'll pick yours and people will like it or whatever. So take some time, write some details, just be specific. And I think that goes a long ways. But yeah, I would love to, help out on mentoring anybody or whatever. So count me in.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm excited to see the CFP from the other side. I think it's going to be really interesting. And yeah, I'm excited to see what comes in.
Yeah. Do you have any sort of, because I pulled up your paper call submission page here. Notes for submitters. This is a conference for people who love building things with Rails. We love stories, projects, inspiration, and education. I think that's pretty good as kind of a prompt of what do you want to hear submitted and stuff. And maybe it could even expand a little bit and say, like, tell us a story about like deploying to production that went horribly wrong and how you guys recovered or whatever. But
he can just link this podcast, dude. We're good to go.
There you go.
Slap.
What we talked about earlier about leaning into the stories of people doing things, exactly what we talked about earlier is truly the prompt.
Got it.
I should put a link.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think that just helps because like for me, when I'm thinking about submitting, I know I have experience. And when I get having a conversation with somebody, then it'll be like, oh, you should give a talk about that. But in the moment, I'm always like, I don't have anything good enough for a conference talk.
When I was trying to write the prompt, I was trying to strike the balance between giving like too much direction and not enough.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to like stifle people's ideas because maybe they have a talk in a kind of a category that I'm not listing here, but then I don't want people to also come and read the prompt and be like, oh, that's too vague. I don't even know what to submit. I want to submit something. So yeah, that's a hard balance.
That's really tricky. Yeah, that's a good point. Because I know Rails World had kind of some more specific examples like you're talking about, but at the same time, I know a lot of people are like, no, I'm going to submit my idea. Like at RailsConf, we just had kind of generic submissions that didn't necessarily fit any of the prompts or whatever we had. So I would guess that people who are strongly confident in their like, this will be a good talk, will submit it regardless.
Yeah.
But definitely for people like me who I'm like, yeah, I know I have experience I could talk about. It's just what specific thing should I get up and talk about for 30 minutes? That can be, I sometimes find that pretty tricky to like come up with an idea.
Or you're trying to like guess what the conference organizer is going to be looking for. And
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's hard. About your RailsConf experience, did you have any submissions that kind of surprised you that you were like, oh, that's something we didn't think of that we really like that wasn't in our kind of examples?
It's been long enough now that it's hard to remember all those. But there were some that like the stories were the ones that really caught our attention the most. Because like we gave you a theme and it was like, this is the last RailsConf. We want to have talks about the past, the present, and the future of Rails. So there were talks that were submitted about like, here's how we added the attributes API to Rails. And I think that was maybe Gannon McKibben from Shopify. And like, those are great talks where it was a little bit of maybe the history of getting that feature in, but kind of also feels current as well. But then we got John Dewsnap's submission that was like, last year, FlexCar went live during RailsConf. And then you see that and you're like, this is going to be an incredible story. So that one immediately was kind of like, maybe that's a keynote. And sometimes you get pitched one of those and it's such an obvious thing that kind of stands out as not a generic conference talk, but you're like, oh, this is going to have a story with learnings and whatever. And you can immediately tell that from the submission. So we definitely had a few of those. Aji was the same way. Aji's talk was phenomenal. And it was one of the tricky parts, which I don't know what you're planning on doing for reviewing the submissions, was like the way that Ruby Central does them is completely anonymous at first. And that's how we rank them. But like Aji's submission was, I'm going to go through all of the RailsConf keynotes and then like do a keynote of keynotes. And a lot of us were on the fence about it because we didn't know who was giving that talk. And so it really depends on the person. And that can be really troublesome for the anonymous reviewing of things. And I think we were all, I mean, I said this to several people. It's like, we're all adults here. And like, yes, my friend might have submitted a talk, but I'm not going to overfavor him unless I'm really feeling strongly that like, yeah, he's going to deliver a really good talk. And I have seen this other person talk, maybe never. So then I would try to make sure that I'm unbiased in that case and be like, you know, I've never seen this person talk. Actually, I'd love to give the opportunity to them because I've already seen my friend speak and other people have too. You want to be careful with it, but you can tell when you're biased on those things. So anyways, long story short, yeah, we definitely did have some of those that really stood out because the submission told the story of like, I can envision your talk as I read this. So if you can nail that in your proposal, then like you win pretty easily, which is good. And that's kind of what I've been trying to do in all of my submissions now, like for Rails World. I'm going to pitch digging into like this year was kind of what are some of the more advanced ways to write your Rails applications that really aren't that advanced. If you have lots of API clients, make a folder for it, make a generator for it, turn your Rails application into a tool for your own domain and really take advantage of all the stuff that you have. You don't have to grab a gem every single time or whatever. Or just in my proposal, just kind of saying like, this is the goal. I want to teach people this mindset. And like, here's some examples that we can use taken from real apps. I even said specifically, like in my proposal, like, these are things that I've taken as well and seen in Campfire source code. And I didn't know David was going to open source it in his keynote. Otherwise, I would have changed my slides and shown off their actual code themselves. But that was another like, check, I'm on the right track for what I know they will want to see at Rails World. And so it's that kind of mindset of trying to submit a talk like that. It's like, what is Travis going to want to see at Blastoff?
And if you can propose it in a way that the reviewer is already imagining your talk as they're reading the proposal, you've already won.
Yeah, I really think so. And then it becomes, if enough people do that, then Travis has a very hard time deciding on the whatever 10 speakers or however many. Yeah, which is a good problem for you, but it's a problem still. It's a really good thing though, because then that level of confidence, if you can get really good talks submitted and then nail down your speakers, then like you just have to convince people to come. And you're already confident that the conference is going to be awesome because you know who is speaking. And that's a lot of what attracts people to go to Sin City Ruby or whatever. Go to RailsConf and Rails World because you know there's certain speakers there. I want to hear from Rosa or whoever. And that goes a long ways. And then the conference hopefully sort of sells itself. Andrew just abandoned us in the middle of the podcast. So we will call him out as soon as he's gone right now. But yeah. So I'm looking forward to it, man. It's literally a week from today. We're having our second son. So that'll be quite a few months. And so I'm hoping that next June I will be plenty free to do a little traveling and have an excuse. I'm looking forward to it because it'll be a good excuse for me and my wife to come out to New Mexico, which we've really not explored much at all, and make a couple extra days vacation out of it or something.
Yeah.
And go see some stuff. So I don't even know if she's really been out that part of the US. We've driven through, like my parents and I have Mini Coopers, and like we've done a road trip with other minis all the way up to like Sturgis and down to Vegas and Palm Springs and then back across to St. Louis. So we went to like the Grand Canyon and stuff on the way back. But like Utah and all that area is just so beautiful. So we may have gone through New Mexico a little bit, but just kind of, this was like a 2-week long road trip. So we were kind of at the tail end of it. Let's burn some hours and like get home. We're tired.
Albuquerque is really beautiful. I will say the drives around it, like one time I drove from Dallas to Albuquerque, and it was possibly the most boring road trip I've ever done. I do not recommend it to anybody because it's just so flat and just nothing for hours. But Albuquerque is really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I forget too, because when you mentioned Native American food, like we ate somewhere that was a Native American restaurant and it was phenomenal. And I had been like itching to go back and have some, what was it? Fry bread is one of their things. Yeah.
Fry bread
that was good.
It's a big thing. There is I forget the name of it now. There's a Native American museum not too far from the venue. And they have a restaurant inside that is all Native American food. Incredible food.
Oh, wow.
Indian
Sounds
Pueblo
real
Cultural
good.
Center.
I saw it on the map here. Yeah.
Really great food there.
Sweet. You said, I think tickets are on sale already too, right?
Yeah, tickets are on sale already. Early bird will probably go around the same amount of time as the CFP. I kind of want to give people, like, if you submit to the CFP and then you don't get in, you could still snatch an early bird ticket if you want to wait to buy your ticket until after you hear about the CFP. I'll just leave them open a little bit longer than the CFP, but they're open now. So yeah, $175 really is a couple months of coffee. So why not just grab it and then make your plans later?
Yeah. No, it's affordable. Conference tickets, especially in the US, tend to get pretty expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And like the one hotel you have too is $150 to $200 a night, which is really, really not bad. So it's the 11th and 12th. What days of the week is that?
A Thursday and Friday.
Another very good choice. RailsConf being in the middle of the week means that Monday and Friday are also gone. You can't work those days. And so this is going to be nice. Same with Rails World, Thursday, Friday. You do travel Wednesday. Maybe you do take the whole week off, but you can do that and then explore or whatever. But it just makes it, I think, a lot easier and flexible for people who are working that don't have to take the entire week off. So that I think is super smart. Well, I think it's time to wrap up. So good catching up, man. I'm glad that we had, again, the excuse to hang out on the podcast. We got to chat quite a bit not a ton at RailsConf, but it was good to meet there in person. And then, I'm going to do everything I can to make it out next summer. So see if I can convince the wife to come out, make a little vacation out of it, and go see some more of the US that we haven't together. So that would be fun.
Yeah, and I never would have had a reason to come on Remote Ruby before this. So yeah, I'm loving it. Thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, really cool experience.
All right. Well, I will talk to you soon.
All righty.